Military operation in Gorno-Badakhshan has been suspended. Stores and markets are open and telephone service restored. The truce was achieved after the involvement of international organizations which demanded to stop the escalating humanitarian disaster. UN and OSCE showed support to the residents of the area, although the key role in suspension of hostility was played by Ismailite's spiritual leader, Prince Karim Aga Khan IV, a Harvard University graduate who now lives in Paris and is well connected with the international community and leading humanitarian programs around the world. Aga Khan is an indisputable authority for the residents of Pamir. Negotiations on creating special units of former militia members are currently underway. All of them will be pardoned except for generals' assassins. Resumed communication channels with Gorno-Badakhshan helped to evaluate what happened here over a few days since July 24th, when the military operation was initiated by official Dushanbe. The horrifying lynching of Sabzali Mammadrizoev, the leader of the local branch of Islamic Renaissance Party, was filmed and posted on the internet. A day before the outbreak of hostilities, Sabzali organized a rally in Kharok and then disappeared. And they dare to call us terrorists. These are the bodyguards. It's terrible. Look how they drag him around. They've thrown him in the trash. They think nobody sees them. He gave us a phone interview right before going missing, which appears to be his last communication with media before the emergence of the video. On Monday, I learned that most of those killed were my students, including our representative for the regional organization of Islamic Renaissance Party of Tajikistan, Sabzali Mammadrizoev, who was a very respectful citizen. One of the leaders of Gorno-Badakhshan, Iqbal Mubarakzoev, sums up the sad results of Kharok events.
На этот раз даже для российских политиков тоже была возможность опять заиметь какой-то авторитет.
This time, Russian politicians also had an opportunity to get some authority and return to Pamir, but they missed it and left it as it is. We have repeatedly called to Russian politicians asking them to pay attention to these developments and intervene to stop these hostilities. Community leaders of Gorno-Badakhshan, which are currently in Moscow, intend to seek international condemnation of President Rahmon's rule, as well as support for the unification of the country's opposition in order to relieve the country from dictatorship.
Эти события показали нам, что всем таджикистанцам, независимо от их местности, независимо от национальности, нужно, давно пора объединиться.
The recent events showed that all Tajiks, regardless of their location and nationality, need to unite in order for this not to happen again. We must strive to change the regime by all legitimate means. When the first murders occurred, I was talking about dismissal of this authority and the president. However, after I learned all that was happening there, resignation is not enough. I will keep fighting until Rahmon and his rule will face the Hague Tribunal for the war crimes.
Я не успокоюсь, пока этот режим во главе с Рахмоном не предстоит перед Гаагским трибуналом по военным преступлениям.
Terminated organized crime group in Almaty is not related to terrorist organizations, reported Almaty DIA press service on Tuesday. The gang's leader was a native of Mongolia, previously convicted Dauletbek Bourzak, with other gang members having served various sentences in the same colony in the East Kazakhstan region. According to the investigators, the suspects rented their hideout the same day they killed a police officer. To recap, a special operation to neutralize the suspected killers of 2 police officers took place on Monday. The interception plan was launched in the city, resulting in the termination of all 6 gang members. At this stage, we can officially say that the group had nothing to do with religious movements. While there is no reason to believe so, we still continue all necessary validation activities. Meanwhile, tenants of the block are estimating the causes damaged in the aftermath of the Special Forces raid. Tatiana Polonskaya was at home with 2 young children during the shooting and was evacuated at the moment of explosion. The woman doesn't know who will compensate her for the damage. While we stood in the doorway, someone came up to me and asked if anyone lived in my apartment. I said that I did and that it was pretty evident the apartment wasn't empty. The investigation of Arkan Kergen incident has been extended by another month, reported on Tuesday. Serik Sarsenov, the lawyer of Vladislav Chelach, a border guard suspected in the murder of 14 of his fellow soldiers and a huntsman. The previous investigation term of 2 months set by the court expired on July 30th. However, the case appears to be not ready still. It is not clear at the moment how much time the authorities need. They haven't managed to finish it in 2 months. There is a lot of work. Therefore, they extended it by 1 more month, including the term of arrest. The maximum term of pre-trial detention is 1 year, whereas the investigation term is indefinite. It could be extended over and over in order to complete it. On Monday, Serik Sarsenov studied all 15 reports on the psychological and psychiatric examinations of Vladislav Chelach. The lawyer cannot share the conclusions reached by experts due to the gagging order, yet he appears to be pleased with the findings. 2 people died in a hurricane in Astana. On Tuesday, heavy downpour, hail and gusty winds hit the capital. As reported by press service of the Department of Emergency, the streets were flooded, several buildings damaged and a pillar crane collapsed on an apartment block. Similar incident was registered in Zarechny village on the industrial territory, where 3 people were reported injured and 2 dead. The 112 service is operating during the disaster, taking calls from city residents. The information is promptly processed and specialists are deployed to any and all emergency locations. The financial assistance keeps coming from international organizations to the families of convicted oil workers. The family of Roza Tulitaeva, who was sentenced to 7 years in prison, became one of the many families that received assistance from Frontline Fund. Similar financial assistance is provided by All Russian Confederation of Labor to oil workers' families, the members of which were convicted for taking part in the riots. First of all, I want to thank the Frontline Fund for providing financial assistance to the family of Roza Tulitaeva. I personally handed the money over to her daughter Aliya, and once again I would like to thank this fund for the assistance. Secondly, I want to thank the All Russian Confederation of Labor for transferring the funds to the account of Aman Saulik, from where it transferred the funds to some families of convicted oil workers. Galym Agilevov shared his views about the upcoming trial over 13 oil workers convicted as part of the case against 37 oil workers. According to the human rights activist, the court of first instance made a mistake by convicting 13 oil workers. According to Agilevov, the appeals board must correct this mistake and thus issue a fair verdict for the rest of the oil workers. It so happened that the court didn't draw the line between the lie and truth in these testimonies. So I hope the court will consider the appeal and will make an objective decision, reach a compromise and soften the penalties. Therefore, I believe it needs to issue a fair verdict for every one of them, including Maksat Dasmagambetov, and for all 13 oil workers. Annually, about $6 billion go unrecorded by the tax authorities in Kazakhstan. The figure was reported at the Almaty conference, The Shadow and Street Economy. According to experts' estimations, 40 to 70% of GDP is left in the shadow turnover, with trade having the biggest share. Approximately $3 billion are accumulated every year in form of untaxed income, unrecorded anywhere and generated by the goods transported across the border. There is even more money left on the table at city markets. For instance, the cost of renting a cargo container at an Almaty market is at least $2,000 per month. In total, there are about 80,000 of them, but the state treasury does not make a penny from this income. In 2004, we proposed a comprehensive program for the legalization of goods, capital inflow and labor resources, including small merchants who import goods across the border. But at that moment, the state, the executive branch, made it clear that it is not a socially significant project. On July 31st, the third day of the 30th Olympics, Kazakhstan's team has collected its third gold medal. Prior to that, the performance of a young boxer Ilya Suleimanov produced several memorable moments and led to a victory over Sweet Salom Ntuve in the flyweight category. Next to Suleiman is Andrew Selby, the silver world champion from the UK. In the meantime, after successful completion of 2 rounds, Kazakhstan judo wrestler Islam Bazbayev lost to 2008 Olympic champion Ole Bishov in the 3rd round, competing in the 81 kilo weight class. Also, on July 31st, Kazakhstan boxers Birjan Jakipov and Danyar Yeliusizov both advanced in the ranks after winning fights against French Jeremy Vissau and American Jamel Herringman, respectively. Finally, it was Maya Maneza competing in the women's 63-kilogram weightlifting class who won gold and produced a spectacular Olympic record by adding 135 kilos clean and jerk to her 110-kilo snatch for a total of 245.